What's up, gifted family? Welcome to another episode of the show that is the GP YouTube. Just a reminder that if you support what we do here, make sure to go over to giftedperformance.com and sign up for our automated coaching service. For only $1 a day, you'll get access to 15 highly customized training programs, a macronutrient calculator, our meal planning feature that lets you build and save meals based on your macros, as well as access to our private Facebook group. All subscriptions help us in continuing to put out great content to get you to your fitness goals. Thanks for stopping by, and without any further delay, let's get into today's video. Enjoy.
Welcome back. Another episode with some strong boys here of the GPP, the Gifted Performance Podcast, where the four of us are going to give you all of the practical takeaways to improve your own general physical preparedness. There is one man who is staring deep into the eyes of you, Dr. Aaron fucking Horshig. We're coming for them cheeks and we're clapping. Mike T, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling dangerous.
Very dangerous. Mike, how are you? Or Tom, how are you feeling other than tired? You cannot use the word tired, exhausted, or any derivative of those.
Deranged.
Oh, okay. I'll take it. I'll accept it. It's somewhat tangential, but I'll accept it. And our guest of honor today is Arian. Arian, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Not tired. I was tired early in the week. I feel recovered now because I was at competition last week. So not tired or deranged. I'm feeling good. Excited for this podcast.
What competition were you at last week?
In Orlando, there was on Saturday was the police, firefighter, and military national championships. And then on Sunday was just a local meet, the Orlando Open.
What the hell? Who were you coaching there? I was there too. I had a... What? What the hell just happened?
What happened?
Who did this?
I see three strong boys and then me.
What happened here?
I was messing with my view apparently, and it carries over to everyone else.
Oh my God, I love it.
I'm a lawyer. I'm not a cat.
You were down at police, military, nationals. Who did you have competing? Because I had a woman in the 76s, so the morning session.
Yeah, on Saturday, I just had one guy, Ken England, and then the rest of the time I was just helping work the meet.
Okay, right on.
I don't remember seeing you, but I don't know if you saw me since I was like helping with scoring and the awards.
I think I might have. Honestly, when everyone's got the mask on, it's hard to see who's who, what's going on. So, Mike, you would be happy to know. I thought about you when I was down there. It was because like a couple weeks previous, I had been at the Hybrid Showdown meet down in Miami, and it was a mask-free meet. And then we go over to, so it was like the WRF scene versus the USAPL scene, and the rules and the following of those rules was a very stark contrast.
That's good. That's good. Mask on.
Despite the difference in the mask, there was similarity from what I saw. I didn't go to the Miami Hybrid one, of how crowded it was. The Miami meet was like packed with people, and also this meet this past weekend, especially for the Sunday local meet, since everyone was nearby, it was packed like 3 to 4 audience members per lifter.
Yeah, that hybrid meet was crazy, packed in. I was standing over on. I think it was the platform where Fernando Hayes does all of his weightlifting. I was at the hybrid gym. I was over there standing on his platform with probably about 13 other people, all shoulder to shoulder with me. So if anyone in there did have the cocoa, it was certainly being liberally spread around to everyone. And there was a nice little like George Foreman grill where we were horribly cooking steaks. I think they were sharpieing on like grill marks, serving it with nice al dente white rice. It was just about as powerlifter as the powerlifter meet could really be. It was a nice one. You weren't down at that one, were you?
Nah, I didn't have any reason to go, and yeah, I didn't want to be around all those people.
For legal reasons, this is a joke.
What's that?
I said for legal reasons, this has been a joke.
This has all been satire. All right, so we are here to talk today about meet day preparation, coaching at meets, coaching at big meets versus local meets. And then we're going to kind of finish the day off talking about a little bit about coaching groups, teams. But first, Arian, I wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself, how you got into the sport, what your current role is within the sport, just that whole general intro thing that podcast people do.
I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but typical person lifting weights from when I was going into high school, just doing biceps, abs, calves, the usual nonsense, and then slowly getting into more strength training with following T Nation and that kind of stuff. And then when I was at Florida State, I heard about the FSU weightlifting club, which Mike has his shirt on right now. And the weightlifting club was a generic club where people would just do strongman, powerlifting, weightlifting, whatever, but no one competed until we had now Dr. Mike Zordos. He was getting his PhD back then at Florida State. He was like, hey, they have powerlifting that competitions in Florida, and we should all sign up and enter one. So in February 2011 was actually my first one. Dr. Zordos got us all to sign up for one in Orlando, Lakeland area, and we rented minivans and went down there and we competed in our first powerlifting meet. So since then, February 2011, I've just been involved every single year, just doing more and more stuff. First becoming a referee in 2013. And then 2014, I was an assistant coach for the team that went to Worlds because a couple of our guys from the weightlifting club, Jordan Burke and Nate Zephyr, made the team as lifters. So I went there to coach them and then handle some other lifters Johnny Candido, or just be in the warm-up room with Mike T, Ray Williams, all those people. And then from there, I was assistant coach for 2015, and then I applied for the head coaching spot because the head coach didn't want to do it anymore. So 2016, 17, and 18, I was the head coach for the sub-juniors and juniors. And then in 2019, I applied for the open team. So now I've had the open team, which was 2019. We lost 2020. So I have 2 more years, 2021 and 2022, before I have to reapply. Aside from that, I do whatever else I can. I run competitions. I ran one in Boynton Beach in January, and I help out other competitions like the one last weekend. And then just being on committees. I was on the Raw committee before they got rid of it. On the coaching committee. We have a North American region, so I'm a treasurer for the North American region. So just helping out with whatever I can along the way, since I'm not a very good lifter.
So I just want to point something out here. So Arian, what it sounds like to me is that, when you compete in a powerlifting organization, that puts on meets, maintains records, bookkeeping, et cetera, that people actually have to do work for other, for the lifters. So you actually have to it doesn't just happen for you. It sounds like you've given back a lot is kind of what I'm trying to hint at here.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our sport where sometimes even the lifters have to do everything. We have Kimberly Wofford, one of the best powerlifters in the world. She's also a referee. She's also now the secretary general for USVI. So even the lifters have to do stuff, because there's no one else. There's no money involved. So when it comes to for example, Raw Nationals qualifying totals, oftentimes I was involved with figuring out what should the qualifying totals be. Same thing for the Arnold. Same thing for our North American championship records. We have to go in and update the records and make sure everything is correct, by hand sometimes. So there's not some professional behind the scenes getting paid to do all this.
I believe it was John F. Kennedy who said, "Ask not what you can do, or ask not what your powerlifting federation can do for you. Ask instead what you can do for your powerlifting federation."
I go into multiple directions with this topic, and maybe both sides, because one, we are a tiny sport. There's no money. People have to do stuff. And if you make the same referee every single meet, every single month, it's going to be tiring. But on the flip side, I try and do as much as I can so that the lifters are actually good, can focus on the lifting and not have to do that stuff. So I'm kind of on both sides of this.
And so something that, and this might be an aside, but in coming from your position, how do you get to the point where this is a sport that actually makes money? Because I come from a bodybuilding background, and these bodybuilding shows, some of them are absolutely massive in how much they spend and how much they put out and how much they promote this kind of stuff. I watch a sport like weightlifting, or I watch a sport like powerlifting, and that's a lot more of a spectator sport, in my opinion, than something like bodybuilding. So how do you kind of get the dollars into a sport like powerlifting or weightlifting?
I mean, if someone had the exact answer, I mean, I think they'd be
You're a rich man.
Yeah, they'd be making some good money right now. The ideas I've had is one, I always see powerlifting as a newer sport compared to other sports. People think like, when compared to, NFL or NBA or something like that, those have been around a long time and have developed, where powerlifting is new. Like powerlifting literally came out of like, during breaks of bodybuilding shows or during breaks of weightlifting, they did the odd lifts. And so like it's on a beginner track as far as the sport, kind of like how UFC has been really growing the last 5-10 years and getting better contracts and more sponsorships, more money for the fighters. Maybe over time, if powerlifting continues to grow, the membership has really been growing, getting out to more countries and building it up, then sponsors will see value in it. The other thing obviously is if they can somehow get in the Olympics. Once you have that Olympic backing and you're going to be on the big show, you're going to get more sponsors coming in, especially like the US sponsors for the sports that they already sponsor for the Olympics. And then I think the overall idea for people is maybe more about like patience, kind of like when you're lifting. People want to be as big as possible or strong as possible immediately, but it's all about the slow, consistent gains, getting more into it, putting more time and effort into every little thing to get yourself better over time. And I think it's the same thing with powerlifting. You're not going to jump straight to $1 million contracts, but we're having these pro meets and these money meets come out where they're giving out 5,000, they're giving out 10,000. SPD was supposed to do the one where it was going to be 350,000 across all the weight classes and divisions and everything like that. And so slowly over time, we can increase these prices, the money meets and the prizes, and then eventually get to something big.
And do you see like the separations in federations between like the untested and tested? Do you see those two kind of like pulling each other apart in terms of like unifying and really monetizing powerlifting as a sport? Or do you see those two aspects of the sport as things that can coexist where both succeed at the same time?
That one's a tough one too, because I think it goes both ways. Because one, we're one of the few sports where you have the option to go to the non-tested side. Like, hey, go take whatever you want, go do whatever you want. Don't come and cheat over here. Because on the flip side, if you did get the powerlifting in the Olympics, or if you only had one federation that was drug tested, then all these people are going to come over and try and beat the drug test to try and compete and make an Olympics and make money. So yeah, you might unify, you might have one federation, there might be more money, but you may have more cheaters, and then you have to try and keep track of who's trying to beat tests and everything like that. And some of the best natural athletes may be losing to some of the best people that are cheating the system. So it goes both ways. I think there can be some happy medium where there's less federations, but there's a primary one for tested, there's a primary one for non-tested, maybe one or two other ones, but not like how there's always 5 to 10 different ones. You can't keep track of a new one every year coming in.
Yeah, I think if they go the Olympic route with powerlifting, that'll really, just like it does for weightlifting where there's no drugs in the sport at all, it'll just completely fix that drug problem altogether. It's just complete #clean sport.
Yeah, with more and more money, there's going to be more and more cheers. But you can also see there's other sports out there where they do have multiple federations. Like for bodybuilding, there's a couple. For strongman, there's a couple. For MMA, there's a couple out there. For boxing, there's several out there. So it is possible to get on that high of a level with having multiple organizations.
I think untested weightlifting federation would be the most beautiful thing in the world. Take whatever you want. You get an unlimited amount of attempts. The only reason you're knocked out of the meet is if you say, I give up.
Would the judging be more relaxed too on like pressing?
Absolutely. Press outs are not only allowed, they are encouraged. I want to see a tricep extension at the top.
I wonder if a deadlift bar would help them for their cleans and snatches.
Bring it out. The only way to know is to try. All right, let's talk about some meet day stuff. So you have a lot of experience working with individuals on meet days. I think that's, especially for powerlifting coaches that are first getting into the sport, that's a really big source of stress for them as to how to handle lifters on meet day. So what is your usual procedure? How far out from the meet are you prepping or looking at numbers from the platform?
Part of it obviously depends on whether it's my own lifter that I'm coaching or if it's someone who just comes to me for meet handling and whatever they can send. But usually the last few weeks you want to know, because that's where they're doing their heavy lifts. So if they're doing their open or second attempt, maybe between something in the second and third in the gym, I want to see those videos to see, are they the competition standards, how hard it was, how much I think they have more in them, what their body weight was. and then start building the plan off of that. And then obviously during the competition, you can make adjustments depending on, if they made weight, how hard was it, how are they feeling that day, and everything like that.
So I actually saw this someone asked this story on Greg Everett, who's a weightlifting coach, his Q&A today. And it's just kind of a random aside, but it will be an interesting question. How do you handle lifters who are consistently nervous for their first attempt or consistently missing their first attempt? Like you're going out there and you're watching them, you're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to make it. Is it just a matter of setting them up with something that's so easy that like they're going to roll out of bed in the morning and be able to lift it?
I think it's a combination of a few things. One would be, depending on what the issue is like, maybe practicing that weight in the gym. So if it's their opener and they did it, 6 weeks, every single week going in, then they feel more comfortable with it. If it's something like a depth issue, being on top of depth during the training all the time, and just be sure that everything is in and not like, questionable. And then you go to the meet like, oh, I wonder why you missed it. Everything was questionable. The other thing would be one thing that like I didn't do on purpose or naturally, I guess you can say, because I'm not as good with the mental side or studying the psychology side, but it kind of just happened from my personality, I guess, is some people, my lifters say when I'm with them on a competition, just me being like relaxed and like knowing what's going on and telling them what to do, everything like that, made them like more like stress-free and relaxed and everything like that. So they kind of like fed off of my energy rather than having like the coach like running around and not knowing what to do and like yelling at the other people in the warm room like, oh, I have to get my lifter in because like they didn't time everything right. So part of it was just like, I guess like the energy of the coach, the lifter kind of goes off of that. And then if you can give them some like some different cues or words of encouragement, again, like if you've hit this weight before, or, hey, this is going to be so easy that you can, it's RPE 7 or like that, just go and take your time, listen to commands and everything like that, then that can really help them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So in terms of having someone like you on your team backstage for the lifters, aside from the psychology, aside from you being there a million times before, what are some other benefits that you might think of having like a very experienced meet day handler like yourself?
I mean, you could say different levels, but like a complete beginner handler versus like more of an intermediate or advanced. Some of the beginner people, like they may know how to like figure out someone's max, like, oh, this person's got 10 pounds more, or this person only got 5 pounds more, but they may not know the nuances of the other things. Like I know some coaches that go to a meet, they don't know how to work the combo rack. They don't know how to work the rack heights, or some of them like don't know how to load kilogram plates. So I've seen sometimes in warm-up rooms where people load the wrong weight or have to be on their phone looking for it. The timing of things, like at the meet last weekend, the warm-up room was in a separate room. We did have screens there, and this time it was online, but oftentimes we don't have the screen there and it's not online. You as a coach have to come into the competition room, look at the screens, see where they are in the order to keep track of the warm-ups and the timing. And some people don't keep track of that. And there's times where we'll announce like, okay, bars loaded for Mike Taylor, and Mike Taylor's like nowhere to be found because like him and his coach are still in the warm-up room warming up and they can't hear us in the competition room. So the complete beginners, like, yeah, you might be good at programming. You might be good at like knowing someone's max, but there's a different skill and experience to the handling. And then when you get to the, between intermediate and advanced handling, it comes down to like how much of it is a competition and knowing all the rules as far as like, making changes to openers, making changes to third attempts. If there's a jury there, knowing how to go to the jury and protest a call, like, talking to the referees and explaining it to where you may be able to get a call your way, those little things.
And I see that all the time in the back room. Even at the meet last weekend, there was a girl that I was helping her warm up because her coach wasn't there. Her coach had sent her warm ups like on a sheet to warm up as she went. She did 20 kilos on the squat for a set of 8 as her warm up. Her next set, and I'm not kidding, you guys are going to think that I'm fucking around, but I promise you I'm not. She went from 20 kilos to 83 kilos for a set of 5. That was her first jump in the warm-up room. She was like, yeah, let me get 83. You want 80? That's pounds or kilos? She was like, let me get it. And same thing on bench. Huge jumps. And she's doing touch and go the whole time because her coach didn't specify, hey, start pausing your attempts here. So she's doing touch and go sets of like 2, 3, 4 all the way up. And I was like, you want me to start like giving you commands, like press commands? And she's like, oh yeah, like that'd probably be pretty helpful, wouldn't it? And somehow this girl survives through the meet and goes like 8 for 9 or something good. But yeah, I can see how, having something like that happen would really throw people off. Were you gonna say, Thomas?
I said really, really turn that nervous system on with that 60 kilo jump.
Potentiate, brother.
Yeah.
And I know people mean well, like the coaches mean well, and they might be like, just a coach at a general gym as a personal trainer. They might be a CrossFit coach and they want to try to powerlifting competition, so they might not know all the ins and outs. So I understand that, but I mean that's still gonna hold you back at a bigger competition. If it's a beginner meet, if it's your first meet, that's fine. You screw up, whatever like that, you come back. But then when these lifters do well and they go to nationals and like their CrossFit coach comes to them at nationals and they have no idea what they're doing, it hurts that lifter. And so then I have seen some of those people eventually transition. Sometimes to me, sometimes other coaches, like they want a powerlifting specific coach, especially if it's a certain federation. Okay, I want a USAPL specific coach because they know all the ins and outs to make that next level, that transition.
It also was very interesting. I had never seen the warm-up room so far separated from the actual platform itself. So we were taking last squat warm-ups, and they were calling people out. Come out to the room if you're about to, your session's about to start. And it was like 8 minutes of just sitting before first attempts were actually taken. So that was kind of a weird setup there, but hey, it worked out.
Yeah, the part of the thing also is always the venue is like you have to know the ins and outs of the venue. Sometimes lifters or even coaches will kind of walk through to see where everything is, see how far the bathroom are and everything like that. Like I'm going to high school nationals and I haven't been to this venue, but I've always heard that the warm-up room is downstairs and then the competition is upstairs. And this is in Colorado too, which is also the altitude. And so sometimes they've had national world championships there, and like these super heavyweights are like warming up downstairs and then you got to walk all the upstairs and like, they're breathing heavy and everything like that. So things you always have to take into factor.
So bathrooms, altitude, scope it out. Are these like your weird tricks? Do you have any other, like Mike wanted to know, what's that one weird trick that you have that other coaches are they're sleeping on?
I mean, I don't know if I have any weird tricks. I mean, I'm the stuff that I was taught are like, just like fundamental stuff. Like a lot of the stuff I was taught about temp selection was taught to me by Matt Gary, who runs the USAPL coaching education. And then so I took all the coaching courses for USAPL. And he has articles and all kinds of posts online going over statistics and how he does a temp selection. So I don't do anything special. I mean, maybe if you want to, like, one weird trick that I could think of would be like, if you want to get like, maybe a little bit more things go your way with the jury, it's like you have to be friends with people. If you go to the jury and you start yelling at them like, oh no, that was BS, like that squat was depth or that, they're going to be like, screw this guy. Like, we're not going to get, but if you go and you're nice to them and maybe like you already know them, maybe you're also a referee, like Mike says, you're someone who gives back to the sport, they might be more willing to listen to you and be like, oh, Arian must know what he's doing because he's also an international referee and maybe things might go more my way.
So your one weird trick is take advantage of the politics. I like it. Yeah.
But see, it's a win-win because for the rest of us, like, hey, we got someone else giving back to the sport, and then for you, yeah, you take advantage of the politics and maybe get benefit for your lifter.
Beautiful. Mike?
Did our like coaching certification together, and then immediately went and coached for like 3 days.
Mike, your audio's in and out. Stand by. Technical difficulty. What he's saying is, Ryan, you look so handsome today. Did you do something different with your hair? Is that a new brand of blush that you're using? The answer is yes to all of that, and I appreciate that.
How is it now? Is it better?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. Sorry. So no, what I was saying was Arian and I both did the coaching certification course together and then immediately turned around and did like 3 days at Raw Nationals back in like 2013, I think it was. And it was like big time trial by fire. And, he's talking about, all of those things, like not being frantic, timing your stuff correctly, making good attempt selections. I can recall, like, at least for me, doing all of those things poorly. And then, as you kind of learn through repetition, I think is, the big key. You kind of pick up on those little things. And, obviously I'm not as involved as Arian is, but I think that's a really good point too. And just kind of recognizing those soft factors, trying to exploit inefficiencies basically. So kind of sounds like sounds like you could apply that to really any sport, try to get some calls to go your way. Doesn't hurt, it's all subjective anyway.
Doesn't hurt to do a little schmoozing. So here's a question that I have for the whole group, and I've been thinking about this one. I was thinking about the hybrid meet. I was thinking about it even more at the meet last weekend. Do you think it would be better or worse for how meets are run if powerlifting meets ran like weightlifting meets, where the weight on the bar always moved up? I feel like the loading and unloading slows things down so much in terms of like a spectator standpoint of like, all right, we got to load it, we got to unload it, we got to go up, we got to go down. Do you think that it would offer a better experience or a worse experience for both the spectators and the lifters if the weight always went up on the bar? Yeah, it's a tough one.
I'll go first. I don't have experience with weightlifting meets, and maybe you would be able to confirm or say that these reasonings are wrong. But they used to do way back in the day rising weight for powerlifting, and the reason why they switched it is because the meets end up being too long. Because I guess in powerlifting, one, you have one more lift compared to weightlifting, and two, you may have more lifters in a session than weightlifting. And so they said the sessions just went way too long, so they switched over to the round system.
That might make sense, yeah, because of the extra lift in there. I could also see it being an issue with some of these super heavyweights, that are squatting, north of 800, 900 pounds. And if it ran like a weightlifting meet, if you miss a squat, like, all right, you're on a 2-minute clock. And after 2 minutes, their heart rate has gone down to 185 from 210. So maybe following themselves wouldn't be the best procedure there. Mike?
Yeah, like Ray Williams, like he finishes his attempt or something like that, and there's no one else over 1,000 pounds. By the time he sits down, like, all right, Ray, you're up again.
Yep, you're up again. Let's get it.
Yeah. I think another factor to kind of keep in mind is like, maybe some of the raw guys and more moderate weight class guys could get away, guys and gals could get away with it. But, powerlifting originally was equipped, to the raw things kind of recent relative to the history of the sport. So, there's like honestly not enough time. Like you would have to, following yourself would have to take probably like 5 minutes minimum if we had to talk about like, getting knee wraps off and stuff like that. So that would take a lot more time, but also it sounds terrible. I don't think I would like to do that myself. So I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I'm probably a little unique because I've got some experience doing Olympic weightlifting and multiply powerlifting and raw powerlifting, and the physical exertion is high for all of those events, but the toll that it takes on you and the amount of time it takes you to kind of have that little refractory period and get back to where you can do anything at all again is totally different. I mean, like, you take a heavy clean and jerk, it could be 95% of your max, and in like 2 minutes you're thinking, okay, I can maybe give this another shot because it's a much quicker repetition, right? And then you take that, maybe say you go to like a second attempt back squat as a raw powerlifter, and yeah, that probably takes you like 4 minutes to 5 minutes to get over and think about, okay, we're gonna put another weight on my back, and then you take that over to like say unlimited ply, anything goes federation, and you've got 3 plies of briefs and 3 plies of canvas on top and knee wraps, and you got 6 people to help push you under the bar when you go set up on the monolift. And like, I'm not getting off my feet for I'm not standing back up for like 10 minutes, guys. It's like 15 minutes before we're touching anything. And because it destroys you. I mean, the blood pressure and everything else, just the physiological aspect of it is different. But I think it was interesting. I think it's been a while since I coached in person at any meets because I've kind of moved beyond that being something that I want to be really actively engaged in. But the last 2 big meets that I coached at were some of the last couple of Raw Unity meets down in Florida. And I remember the one where Milan squatted 1025 or whatever it was. I think they did a sort of a rounds with a rising bar system. So your flights were were ordered by the weight on the bar. And then your order for lifters within that flight reset every flight. So you take your firsts and the bar would only go up. And then you take your seconds and, the person might have been third based on their opener, but they take a bigger jump for their second. And so now they're sixth. And I don't think it was real well publicized because it threw a bunch of people for a loop. They thought they were, they had a lot more time between openers and second attempts and then looked up and they were, in the hole and nobody had any idea what was going on. But I thought it was an interesting way. It did help the meet run more smoothly. Talking about 60 lifters in a day and some guys getting up into close to 4-digit weights. And, we got out of there in under 10 hours, which is a
record.
Big deal for
That's record pace.
Done at 4 p.m., you're doing good.
I was going to say another interesting point I thought of that from Mike giving his reasoning is for weightlifting, you guys can put more changes in, right, for your attempts?
Yes.
And so what Mike was saying about the equip lifting, it'd be interesting if you're like, could be awesome and terribly bad is like you're wrapped in your knees and like people are putting changes in like, oh no, you're not up. Okay, you're up. And you're just like, you're losing blood to your leg because you're wrapped in it like that. And people are just screaming with you, putting changes in.
Yeah. And a lot of the super heavyweight lifters, they do exactly that. They'll be like, all right, I'm taking, 255 as my next clean and jerk. Nope, I'm going up to 256. Nope, I'm going up to 258. So they essentially give themselves that 6-minute rest. But Tom, you said that the length of effort for like a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift is longer and more physiologically taxing. When Lasha clean and jerks 270 in Tokyo this year, I'm going to time it and we're going to compare it to Dan Bell's 1104 squat. And we're going to see how much total time under tension there was between those two lifts right there. So I don't know if did you see the video of Dan smoking 1104?
Well, you got to remember though that for like the back squat, the lift is not just the up and down; it's the walk it out and put it back.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking about, you may only be like twice as long in terms of actual bar speed for the back squat versus the clean and jerk, but you're also talking probably 3 or 4 seconds of extra isometric tension there. Just
confirm my bias, please. Just be like, hey man, weightlifting is really hard and you're doing great. You're doing a really good job. Just tell me that, and then we can just keep moving.
I never said weightlifting wasn't really hard. The reason I'm even worse at it than I am at powerlifting.
I mean, when Dan's doing the squat, that's the max that he can squat. But when you guys are doing your, the clean, it's not the max you can deadlift.
Very
it's not
true.
The max you can front squat. So like, you guys are doing 70% over there, 50%.
Yeah. Honestly, it's sandbagging.
I always kind of consider weightlifting to be less of like a strength sport and more of like a throw event. Like I think like biodynamically, it has more to do, like more in common with like hammer or shot put than it does with powerlifting. And it's just that the implements are similar.
Yeah.
So
timing and application of force instead of just maximum force right now. Let's do it.
Exactly.
All right. So, Arian, you've coached at some very, very high level meets. So I would actually like to hear kind of how those compare, how something like IPF Worlds compares to coaching at, high school nationals or, raw nationals or one of these state meets. How are things different in the back room, the warm up room, counting attempts, doing all that?
Typically, I mean, it's changing a little bit, but typically when you go higher and higher, it's a little bit less hectic as far as it's fewer platforms, fewer lifters in the warm-up room, more warm-up racks, and so you're spread out more. So, like a world championship used to always be one platform, now sometimes two, whereas, for USAPL, raw nationals, high school nationals, collegiate nationals is getting 3, 4, 5 platforms sometimes. So when I have my raw nationals, 5 platforms, I might have 3 or 4 lifters, and I got to run around between a platform. It's a little bit more hectic than when I have one lifter and one session on one platform, and you can just focus on them. And you might be warming up with maybe 1 or 2 other countries, or maybe no one at all. At the highest level of the World Games, which is like the Olympics for the non-Olympic sports, basically every lifter has their own rack that they can warm up on. So it gets a little bit easier as far as that stuff. depending on the championship, the coaches from the countries might be better than like just the typical coach at nationals. But sometimes you get, newer countries that come and the coaches don't necessarily know what they're doing. Maybe they come for weightlifting or something like that, and they're still figuring things out. And then the other thing you have to sometimes watch out for is like, that at least I've noticed is like, one, from a lot of these other countries, they know English because it's their second language, so they can hear everything you're saying, but you may not know Russian. You may not know French. And so you can't understand what they're saying as far as attempts or strategy or anything like that. But you have to be careful how loud you talk because they might be able to hear what you're saying. And even sometimes with like your attempt sheets, like the first few years, like 2014, 2015, I would print out an attempt sheet for every single lifter and have it like on a binder, everything like that. And then you put it down like on the bench while you're like, you're warming up squats or go look at the screen. And some people might like walk over and kind of like, take a look at your folder and see what's going on, see what numbers you have on there. So you have to be careful because like, this is the highest level. People are going to try and do whatever they can to figure out what the game plan is and beat you.
So, and you can plead the fifth on here. So if you want to plead the fifth, don't be afraid. But you're walking into the back room at Worlds, you're warming up, and there's one country back there, and you're like, God damn it, it's those bastards from.
I mean, it depends on what specifically you're talking about, but I think most people know that some of these countries are like very nice. Like, if we're warming up with Canada, they're nice. Or we're warming up with like, New Zealand, Australia, Great Britain, whatever, they're nice. Some of the countries not like, Russia and Ukraine, especially, like they're very like stoic, and on the equip side, they're very dominant and everything like that. And they just want to like come in and be like, oh, I need to do this. And it's like, like we have like a line going, we're like, we have our warm-ups timed out, and this guy just wants to come in. And sometimes we even had it where we had to like go complain to the jury because sometimes they'll come and try and do their training session because they're competing maybe in 2 days, something like that. But you're not supposed to do your training session while you have a session going on. Some guy comes in, like takes a rack and they're bench pressing, and we're like, we need to like start warming up for deadlifts, and you're doing a bench press session here. So some of those Eastern European countries and stuff like that, like they don't really care. They're just there like, to win and do their thing.
Confirmed. Mike? Oh no, not again. Not again.
We gotta do a GoFundMe for a new microphone for Mike.
It was working there for a second. It was working. He's back.
Yeah, better.
He's back.
Better. We good? Okay, we're good. I was just gonna say, it sounds like you need a like an advanced degree in like international relations, basically, or at least in like Cold War era like international relations.
I was gonna say this is simple. This is NATO versus the Warsaw Pact, and
That's right.
It's us versus them, and we're gonna beat those bastards. That's all I'm hearing here.
So Arian, what is like your dream destination for Worlds? They announce and you're like, oh hell yeah, I get to go to.
I mean, we've gone to some good countries. I mean, as far as locations, usually they're like, in the smaller cities where things are cheaper and stuff like that. So like, the city we went to for South Africa wasn't the nicest city. But the thing is, like, once you're there, you can then go vacation other places and do things like safaris and all that stuff like that. Same thing like when we went to like Finland and Sweden and stuff like that, people went and did other things. But the one place I always thought of that would be good for two reasons would be going somewhere like New Zealand. One, because it just sounds like an awesome place to go and compete and travel and do vacation stuff afterwards. And two is because just the travel that they have to do, typically like Australia, New Zealand, some of these other countries, when they have to come to Europe or North America, it's like a full day trek for them, 3 different flights, everything like that. They're like, the time zone's messed up versus us. Like, we just go up to Canada and we compete. Everything is good. So it'll be interesting for all these other lifters to then experience that other side. And everyone from like, North America and Europe have to take these long flights all to New Zealand and then go compete against those lifters and see how they get affected.
And I'm a little ignorant. I'm not in the know, but what's the plan for Worlds this year with travel restrictions and whatnot?
Basically what they did since last year got canceled, they're giving all those same locations, those same meet directors for now for this year. So, but we'll see what happens. So it was supposed to be in Minsk, Belarus, and they're planning to go forward with it. The couple downsides to it is, one, obviously there's the pandemic, but that can, that can affect any country. But two, if you didn't know, like towards the end of last year, they had like their election where, it was like a rigged election, and they have like their civil unrest and they're all protesting in the streets. They're basically protesting in the city, in the streets where we were there a few years ago for the World Championship. So who knows when that's going to finish and if that's going to be safe to go, or if like, people are going to say we're not going to go because they're like, there's a pandemic and there's a civil war going on over there.
So I saw a commercial one time where I think it was Kylie Jenner like gave like a riot police officer a Pepsi, I think, and it ended the unrest. So that could potentially be a strategy that we could use. Also, I mean, just like maybe powerlifting would just like unify the country. Like all these people would be like, "What the hell? What is this?"
Are you saying that Pepsi's going to sponsor IPF Worlds next year? Is that what you're saying? That's what I heard.
That would get some money in the sport.
Mike, maybe the problem is they don't have Pepsi in Belarus. Maybe that's the issue.
They have Dr. Pepper.
So angry all the time.
Very big Dr. Pepper country.
They have vodka, that's for sure.
They definitely have Dr. Pepper.
We were there a few years ago, and typically when you order drinks or even a bottle or at like a hotel, it costs way more than if you just buy it from the store. But even at the hotel in the lobby, they were just selling a whole bottle of vodka for like, it would convert to like $7. And so like we just like a bunch of us would just buy one each and just put it down on the table, and we would just drink like getting the soda costs more money than getting the vodka.
Jeez.
So when we talk about things like if you're Team Pepsi, Team Dr. Pepper, Team Coke, that's really segues nicely into teams in powerlifting. Our next topic
segue
here. It's incredible, right?
I'm
just
impressed.
Smooth, very smooth, right into it. So it's an emergent concept. Mike and I have talked about this quite a bit, where it seems like more powerlifting coaches are getting together to form teams and kind of put their brains together to create something that's more successful. It's somewhat, I think Mike described it as more of like an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset. There's a lot of people out here who want to lift a heavy barbell and get stronger. Like there's not a scarce amount. We don't have to hide our facts, or we don't have to like sequester ourselves away and say, I have the secrets. So is that a mindset that you get with? Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like helping people out and giving out information, I've always tried to be like as open and help people out as much as possible. But I think, yeah, that can go with the teams as well, because typically whoever starts like the coaching company or their team is obviously like, the more experienced person, and they've been around longer. And so then they can also, pass that information along to other people that join their team, and then that can help them be better coaches too. So like some of the first one I think of is like, RTS with Mike T, or with Chad Smith with JTS, or even Bryce Lewis with TSA. It's like those guys have been around for a long time. They've been high level lifters and then high level coaches, and they're able to bring people underneath them, train them up, pass along that information, and then basically be a stronger team.
Yeah. And part of the reason that I thought about this topic with you, Arian, was because, you recently got brought on with the Strength Guys, which is like, another coaching group, has some pretty successful athletes. So you guys have Taylor Atwood and a couple other folks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of spurred it for me was, lately I'll share stuff if I see like something cool, like, Strength Guys post, or like, especially Data Driven Strength. Those dudes have been posting some really awesome content. And I had somebody respond like, don't you feel like kind of weird, like sharing all their stuff all the time? Like they're technically the competition, right? And, for me, I don't feel weird about it, because I'm like, no, this is like useful information. And, I feel like, sharing it is important, and learning from it is important. Kind of helps to make me a better coach, helps me help my athletes better. And, I could see how if you were approaching it from like a strictly, like, I guess, business standpoint, it like doesn't check out. You don't want to like potentially do anything to like benefit the competition. But I don't like Ryan was saying, I don't think there's any scarcity of people wanting to become stronger. And, I think just like having more and even better options is what will ultimately kind of help the sport as a whole. So I'm kind of with you there. And I think, like that abundance mindset is good. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's business, but it's a different type of business, I think, because as far as like the one-on-one coaching, or maybe even like templates or group coaching, is like, there's a limit. If you're going back to like, Coke versus Pepsi, they have a huge addressable market, and both are trying to, get the largest percentage of that market as possible. Whereas like me versus you. I mean, just in USAPL, there's over 20,000 members. I can't coach 20,000. I can't coach 1,000. I can't. Some people can't even do 100. A lot of people are into 30 to 60. And so there's plenty of people to go around for all the coaches as of now. And so there's no problem with me sharing something from RTS, sharing something from TSA, and them getting clients out of it, because there's still plenty of clients for me to get. The other benefit to it that I've seen is for some of the lifters that maybe sometimes don't trust me at first, even though I might have these accomplishments or I might have these lifters, people will they think, oh, the training's too light, or oh no, this isn't going to work, or whatever like that. So just sharing other stuff from other coaches shows hey, look, these other coaches are saying the same thing. They're doing the same process as me. And so the person's more likely to buy in, oh, if all these people are saying it, then maybe Aaron is right.
And I've actually seen
Arian is right.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, debate. He is right. So
always has been, always will be. I've actually seen when people try and separate themselves and try and say they've got the secret or they've got the proprietary information, it kind of creates more problems than it does actual solutions. Because like you said, your training it's simple. It's backed by all the other individuals in the industry that are very successful. So to separate yourself from that, you kind of have to latch on to some, crazy ideology that, I don't know, for example, let's say you've got lifter A who squats 650 pounds and he's got a slight bit of hip shift. And then there's lifter B and he squats 500 pounds and it looks perfect. You have to post something crazy oh, lifter B is more impressive to drive more views, instead of just being a reasonable fucking person and being yo, 650, that's legit. Yo, good shit. You see what I'm saying? My random example that I pulled out of my head.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's kind of wild. I saw a post, and this didn't have anything to do with coaching or lifting or anything. It was a business blog, and the guy said, not everything needs to scale. And there's the two big things that are really trendy right now in our high tech era are disruption, where you're totally bucking what everyone else is doing and doing things totally different. And kind of contrarianism approach that, worked for some of the big tech companies 10, 15, 20 years ago and set them up to be the Amazons and the Googles now. And then also the relentless push to scale everything up. And this particular blog was talking about a guy who cuts grass, and he was taking and working on his systems for his client management and client retention. And instead of using them to try to scale up to cut 300 lawns, he just got it to where he could cut enough lawns to make what he wanted to make in 30 hours instead of 40, to drive efficiency for the purposes of his own well-being and not just making more money. And I think that's kind of where coaching's going, where it's a craft, right? So we're not trying to churn out 300 athletes a year. We're trying to make 50 or 30 really good athletes and also support ourselves at the same time. So rather than hey, we need to go be black sheep and do something totally different, in how we make the lifter, why don't we just make good lifters and let that sell itself and be the goal, instead of having, we make good lifters a way no one else does, or we make more good lifters per coach hour than anybody else. I think it's kind of backwards priorities, and it gets real self-serving on the behalf of the coach to think I'm not successful unless I have 200 clients, or I'm not successful unless I do something that's totally against the grain just for the purposes of being different. Like us, our goal as coaches is to serve clients, not to serve ourselves in our methods or our, what we end up with on the balance sheet. So I think people lose priority there, lose sight of what the priority is there. And I think if you keep that, there's plenty of room for everybody to be successful if you look at what the real goal of coaching is.
And with that said, I don't think that we're going to see the Tombot AI template program anytime soon, will we?
Totally proprietary.
You're looking at him right now. You're looking at the Tombot AI right here.
I was going to say that the other thing to add in there, as far as we're limited in how many one-on-one clients we can take on at one time, is that also on top of that, not everyone's a good fit. So like when I talk with some people, sometimes people will say like, oh no, maybe they want like, a lot of nutrition coaching, and I'm not an expert in nutrition. I'm not certified in Florida. Technically, you can't do that unless you are like, a registered dietitian like that. So I can say like, hey, well, there are these coaches out here that are nutrition experts. Or maybe someone says, oh, Arian, your price is too expensive. I say, okay, well, there's these other options you can look into for cheaper options. I have a buddy, Bill McCarthy. He tries to have a rule where he doesn't coach other coaches. So if there's someone who wants to come to him, it's also a coach, he can say like, sorry, I don't coach other coaches, but you can go to Arian. So there's benefits like that too, where like, if you're not a good fit for someone, you can pass them off to your friends. And if they have someone that's not a good fit, they can pass them off to you.
Yeah. And I think that's like the wonder of what we have going. It sounds like what you guys have going, but what we have at Gifted as well is like, since I've started doing a lot more CrossFit training, I have a lot of people sliding into my DMs. Hey, will you do my CrossFit training for me? It's like, no, I don't do my CrossFit training. That's Tom. Like, you got to go hit up Tom. And then they're like, this guy over here, the guy who wears the same green Sorinex t-shirt in every podcast. Well, guys, look, there's a new one, and he's ready. He's ready to service all of your CrossFit needs. Mike, did I miss anything? Do you want to circle back to any topics?
No, I don't think so. This has been awesome. I think just really kind of highlights the importance of, I guess all of the work that goes in behind the scenes, both from like, the administrative level with, your powerlifting federation or any, sport federation, but then also just, the care and effort that goes into trying to churn out, quality coaching services. So, I think that's what we're all about here. And, it's awesome to hear that that's kind of what Arian's all about. I know I've learned a lot from him in my years knowing him. So appreciate it.
Arian, you raised a good one. That Mike Taylor. All right, to play us out. Now, more than ever, we see that strength athletes are masquerading as combat athletes. We've got Eddie Hall, who wants to fight Thor over literally 1 kilo. He wants to fight him over 1 kilo. We've got Dave Castro and Josh Bridges in the CrossFit space that are trying to fight each other. Dave will not be fighting Josh because of allegedly he doesn't want to take his shirt off and show his, and I quote, spoon chest and noodle arms. Weird reason to cancel a fight. But so, Arian, with that said, who is one USAPL lifter or coach, referee, you could throw anyone out here that for a fact that you could just beat their ass?
It's a tough question. Like I haven't really been in fights before. I'm not good at fighting. I don't want to hit anyone.
So it's Taylor Atwood. What you're saying is it's Taylor Atwood.
Plus, I haven't like seriously trained since like 2015. So like, all my numbers are down. I'm pretty weak and everything like that. I think I have to find like, a Masters 3 or Masters 4 person that I can maybe beat up, because like, maybe even like I have to go down to like, 83, 74. So like, they're a weight class 2, 1 or 2 less than me. Then I think I can beat them up. But, most of these open lifters, they can probably beat me up pretty easily.
Well, with that said, who is one open lifter that you do not want to catch in a bad mood? You don't want to try and do a bench session when they're trying to warm up for deadlift.
We do actually have some powerlifters too that have been like messing around with jiu-jitsu and all that kind of stuff like that, these other sports. And so I think like maybe people wouldn't go in thinking about it. Like, for example, Dennis Cornelius, you look at him, he doesn't look like maybe he can fight or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure whether it's me or someone else, he's done Brazilian jiu-jitsu, he's done legit competitions. I'm pretty sure he can like easily just like, take you down, break your arm or choke you out. Same thing with Chad Wesley Smith. He's been training. He's been competing. He can probably just, especially with how big and strong he is still, he can probably just like, take you down, choke you out, and be like, this is my deadlift platform. Now we're warming up.
I think a lot of people looked at old Chad Bot when he first got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they're like, oh, this guy's not going to be able to handle it. Now he's starting to kick some people's asses, and people are really starting to get a little skeptical if they want to catch those baby blues looking at them the wrong way.
Yeah.
Tom, did you have any? No, Mike, go ahead.
I was just going to say that Arian shouldn't count out that, while like, physically he may be unable to like incapacitate someone, he could just like say that someone's squat was like looking high, like, like 2 weeks out, how's this look? And you could be like, kind of high, just flat affect and just, really like mentally just punish them, you know? So don't underestimate yourself, man.
Or maybe I can bust out.
Sure.
Maybe I can bust out some of my secrets in my fanny pack, like maybe like, you know, throw ammonia packs at them and baby powder in them and run away, and then like go grab like a 2.5 kilo plate and hit them in the knee with it.
There you go. Adapt, improvise, overcome.
I've been told in the past that there are no rules in the jungle by quite a few powerlifters. Can you verify?
Well, I mean, we're in the jungle right now, apparently, and there have been no rules on this podcast, so I think that confirms it.
I mean, that's as good of a takeaway as any. I think we can send the people on their way now. Guys, thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, notification bell. I learned about the notification bell. That's a cool thing to say at the end of a video. Do all of those things, because you know why? Because the algorithm, it stays fucking your boy, and we're trying to bump this shit all the way to the top, take it to the moon. Daddy Elon is taking us there. We will see you on the next one. In the meantime, stay gifted, and we love you.